was a good one. Try to shake it in front of them, get them to come up and eat your bait. Keep them off the bottom. And
he's on. Good job, man.
Sweet, sweet. You can see him fighting the fish. Coming straight up. I'm gonna go back to live angles here. Better fish? I don't look like a baby.
I feel like a good one.
You tell me. Don't look at my crack. Sorry, I had to grab that one out. The bait just fell out. Holy smokes! I was playing with fire. That's a really good one. First fish of the morning. Deep, isolated rock spot. Oh my God. I don't know. How big is that? That might be an 8 or a 9. I don't think it's 10. Just a stud. Totally fine. I'm putting in the box just for kicks. I don't usually do that, but that's the deal. All right, Clear Lake fatty. Cold winter fishing. Hover strolling. That fish came out about almost, I don't know, 25 to almost 30, I would say, on a break. Deep. God, strong fish. Head down. Healthy. I just waited 866. So I'm gonna put her back here in a second. I'm gonna take a couple pictures, but that's a really nice fish. Come out to Clear Lake, and it's just crazy right now. 2025 is just setting up to be just a insane year of fishing. So good luck out there, hover strolling. You know, what can I say? It's amazing. It's kind of like the A-rig. It really is. Hurt my arm. Go. I didn't put down some of the, tried swimming over it, but Bass Union had just pinned this dude. Pinned it. Nice job, Bass Union. I mean, we're catching 5 like that, kind of like no problem. I've been working this spot for a while, but I put the hover rig down to try some big baits, like the Ghost, the DRT Ghost, and big spinner baits. Hard to beat the hover rig right now. So besides the, you know, from a hover strolling perspective, I'm really impressed all around with these Shimano NASCI reels. I've been using them for years now, and I love like just a high value product, right? Like, okay, $100 I can get a reel. This is a Daiwa Tatula. $100 I can get a rod. So $200 I got a killer rod and reel that are really modern. I mean, it's hard to, you know, with braided line, it really helps with your sensitivity. So like, you know, I know that there's lighter, there's more bearings, there's better drags, and you know, there's a lot of really high-end stuff you can get into in reels. Spinning stuff in particular, like if you just get stuff that seems to work, it's a good match for the application. These are the 2500 series. I do have the 100 series, but I'm getting back into 2500 series. Just I want to be able to fish at depth. You know, frankly, I feel like I'm fishing bigger. I'm catching bigger fish, right? Like on Clear Lake. So, but anyway, you can get away with the thousands on this stuff. Right? You really can. I was with my buddy Garrett. He was over at the house the other day, and I'm looking at his. He's got a bunch of NASCIs. We were laughing about it, right? Garrett from G-Rat Baits. You know, he fishes a lot of Douglas rods. You know, there's a big Douglas following. All these guys around Clear Lake, and they're beautiful rods. They're really well made. I've never, you know, I fished a couple of my buddies' rods and like held them, seen them, whatever. They're clearly nice rods. Again, I'm just a big, like, you know, these Tatulas, the NASCIs. The other one I wanted to show you, hang on, is the Phenix Maxim, right? And it's got a NASCI. You can see how light my braid is. I fished the snot out of this thing for a bunch of months. I've had these Maxim rods. They make like a longer, like a 7.6, 7.7 that's just killer, right? I've always loved long spinning rods for, you know, flinging out a wacky rig trick worm like on light line and clean water, or even like some of the 3-inch swim bait stuff. You know what I mean? You can make a long bomb cast. You got a lot of line pickup on your hook sets. You can, you know, it's almost like a dart head, right? You got a lot of control and your ability to cover a lot of ground with the longer stuff. The more I get onto Clear Lake, I realize how much, like, okay, yeah, I need more short rods. I need more 7-footers, even 6.6s. You know, there's a lot of dock fishing that happens. So this is a 7.2 Maxim. I'm really impressed with Phenix. You know, they continue. Like I was fishing Phenix rods when I was in high school. You know, I used to wear their shirts to hide. Like it was like my favorite. Like we were all into that stuff. It was really cool back in the day. And that company's always just been a staple of, you know, Southern California bass fishing, saltwater fishing, what have you. The Maxim is just a really great value. I think it's like $129, and you know, with an NASCI rod, it's a little bit more than the Tatula setup. This thing's a 7.2. It's just a bulletproof rod. It's got a great. I know Phenix has good warranty and stuff like that, so you can, if you do break it, you can get things replaced. But this is all I'm fishing with, right? You know, you want to have a good. I'm using 10-pound braid to 10-pound fluoro leader, right? You want the bright braid so you can see it. You see your line out in space. You want at least, you know, you want like an 8, I don't know, 10, you know, I'd say maybe 6 to 10 foot leaders. You can put, you know, it doesn't, like spinning rods, and if your knot goes down on your spool or your leader, like that's okay. It's, you know, you call it a top shot. It gets so long, call it literally like a top shot. That's okay. I like to have my knot like be like right around this first guide, going back up and then back, you know, back down, so I can retie once or twice with my fluorocarbon, or, you know, not have to put on a brand new leader. But you know, it's just a really good practice. Spinning rods seem to be, you know, the way to go on this hover rig. I'm totally intrigued about like spinning rods that are more geared to, like, you know, 3/4, 1 ounce, 1.5 ounce, you know, as hover rigging and like heavier swim jigs, and you know, there's going to be better swim baits and stall baits, and I mean there already is, right? There's just a lot of, kind of like when A-rigs first came out, the terminal tackle's got to catch up. Like to have a 1/4 ounce jig head that with a 8/0 hook or something is kind of a, they don't, you know, it's kind of like, you know, having 1/8 ounce heads and 4/0 hooks. Like they didn't have that either for the A-rig, right? You need, the terminal tackle's got to match the application. So I think there's a lot of room to grow, believe it or not, in heads and jigging and rigging and, you know, kind of the terminal tackle. I mean, the Bass Union guys, they're NorCal dudes. These guys got a really interesting thing going. You know, Mustad makes a good, they, you know, like having a lot of options. You get 1/4, but you can pick your hook size. You know, 1 or 1/0, a 3/0, whatever, 6/0. They've got some wild, like, you know, very customized stuff to match your application, right? I mean, I'm on Clear Lake where you could be fishing like a 9-inch. I mean, if I know, you know, I mean, I'm just waiting for like 9-inch versions of these and like 12-inch versions of like the single tail rib baits, and you know, long straight shit, you know, like a 10/0 hook that you'd see on like a war baits spinner bait or something, right? You know, like, or even war bait, you know, their swim bait heads, right? You know, matching the hook to the size of the bait, and if you want to do it with a spinning rod, which I think is kind of, yes, you can do it on casting, and I've gone back and forth so much in my life, like drop shotting with casting rods, and I'm back to doing it on spinning rods, and but like spinning rods are a really neat application for that swim jig thing, right? Called swim jigging, and call it hover. I mean, the hover rig is brilliant, right? It's a slow presentation right overhead, and you can really control how fast it's coming at you, how much you sink it out or raise it up, and you can really use your skills to cat and mouse them when you do get some attention. They'll come up and play with your bait. You can make them bite, and I think that's the thing that's really is fun, right? I know you're staring at this screen, but it's like whoa. Like when I see like a big giant rock and I'm coming over it, and then all of a sudden this big blob moves off that rock toward my bait. It's pretty exciting. You got a really good shot at getting a bit, and sometimes just based on the size of the blob, you're like, whoa, that is a big one, right? So, that's new. I mean, you don't always get to, have that kind of visibility. And look at the water. I mean, this water looks like, this could be, Oklahoma after the floods, or, some real muddy water stuff right here right now on Clear Lake, and they're still down there. Shows up plain as day on the scope. It's just such a powerful tool right now. So anyway, the Maxim, the NASCI reels, the Tatula set, right? I've got, I'm just big into having lots of, I'd rather have 5 rod and reel setups that are kind of like value setups than like 1 or 2 super high end, right? I do have some super high end swim bait gear, and even conventional stuff, but like, man, this stuff takes such a beating. There's just, don't say there's no need. I mean, I understand that there is a need for it, and it's nice, and that might fit your style and kind of your flow of fishing. But I think for, if you just want to get into, hover rigging, or, just fishing smart, a lot of the time it's about having quantities and different options to throw at them, and having backup rods and reels, and, more and more I'm looking at taking people fishing, and like even getting into like guiding, hosting people in my house for a couple days. Like, I got to have a lot of setups, right? And you don't want to be, you don't want someone to break your favorite NRX rod or so having just kind of value gear makes sense, and it's good, and I know it's going to work, and it's not going to be a failure, and gosh forbid something breaks, it's not the end of the world, right? So that's kind of where my head is at, and I'm just sharing. These are some of my favorite tools. These NASCI reels are just incredible. How bulletproof, great drags. Rods, 7 foot to 7.2, 7.3 seems to be a really good sweet spot, right? As far as the hover rig, it's not about casting distance. It's about comfort, control. Really, whatever you're most comfortable fishing for the day, and let the braid do what it does, right? It's super sensitive, right? Braid and fluorocarbon is a heck of a combination. It's made for spinning rod. It's just great. All right, good luck. Another little chunky one. Nothing huge, but all of a sudden they're biting out here. Again, I'm fishing probably right around 20 feet right now. 18 to 20. It's a deeper hole. Good rock pile. Hover strolling. Catching a lot more fish than I otherwise would. Not a giant, but it's kind of how we do it, right? You got to be real thorough. He just barely hooked. Got to be patient, but for me, the later in the day out here in the wintertime, it's been better. This beautiful California NorCal, that's the Canocti volcano back there. I think forward-facing sonar and the hover rig is just really transforming the wintertime fishing around here. I was talking to John Pearl yesterday, and we were kind of just talking through it. You know, it used to be all about the head spin and, you know, Ned rigs and really working hard for fish. And it's not easy out here by no stretch, but, you know, I can just speak for myself. This is my fourth season up here, or third winter, I should say. Fourth winter. Doesn't matter. This is by far the best winter I've had on Clear Lake by a long shot, and it's all because of the forward sonar, all of it, right? And once I can put together like these same fish will eat the glide bait on certain days, you know, it kind of really simplifies things, really simplifies things. So super stoked to be out here. Hope everything's going well in your life, and see you soon. Really helped me get a real good feel for where the fish are, what they're doing. Get confidence and like, okay, okay, I know what the heck I'm doing out here, and, you know, can compete with, you know, these tournament weights. Like sometimes, you know, it wasn't making sense to me. I was catching third, like, you know, guys down in Texas just blasting them, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, got it. I wasn't quite connecting the last, you know, the last quarter mile of data to connect all the dots to, like, you know, it's like the forward-facing sonar and your ability to, you know, really put that bait in critical conditions and you know, put it in a way they've never seen it, and really, you know, work it over stuff and keep it high enough and count cat and mouse big fish, never making contact with the structure, never, you know, ruining your spot by getting hung up and, you know, over, like, sinking out too far, which is easy to do when you're fishing, you know, 20 to 30 feet deep. And, you know, so it's a really, you know, I try not to, like, man, it's an incredible tool. It's really, I've had the best couple of months, the last few months that I've had in a long time. And I don't know if I've ever caught them as well in, like, December, January, February matter. It's just been a great last few months here on Clear Lake, and I've totally just been enjoying, you know, fishing and sharing information and, you know, trying to document, like, what I'm doing and how it's going to affect, like, a big bait approach. So, you know, you want to get a day bag ready, that's got, you know, that's got your kind of go-tos ready. I keep a bunch of heads right at the ready, but having a couple rods rigged up, definitely a good practice. Heavy, lighter weight, you know, maybe a ribbed bait, maybe a smooth bait, maybe a 4-inch bait, maybe a 5.5, 6-inch bait, right? Give yourself some options. You know, that seems to be a really good, you know, methodology right now out here on Clear Lake. All right, let's talk about some of the gear you're gonna need. I'm using this PowerPro. It's a 10-pound. I like it in that real bright green so I can see it, right? But 10-pound braid to 10-pound leader, right? No bait shock. That's a real good setup for Clear Lake. When it comes to picking your heads, these roller heads from Owner are awesome. The 1/8 ounce with a 3/0 hook, real good way to get started if you're just starting. The lightweight helps you, gives you more time to find your bait out in space when it's sinking. That's a real good way to start if you're just new to hover strolling. This is my go-to though, the 3/16 with a 3/0 hook. I am using a 1/4 and I'm using a 3/8 in some cases. The heavier the weight, the deeper the water I'm fishing. So anything over about 20 feet, I'm going to a 1/4. I've been messing with 3/8. It's awfully hard for me to find my bait sometimes, and I hit the bottom before I find it and I get hung up. Some of the other considerations, for example, like Bass Union, these guys are making, they got a heavier gauge hook, real strong hooks. I'm liking having, like, this is a 6/0 hook with a 3/8 ounce head. So in some cases, I think we're going to be seeing, like, you know, an 1/8 ounce ball head with a 6 or 7/0 hook. It reminds me a lot of the when the A-Rig came out, and a lot of the jig heads just weren't up to snuff. Like, okay, we need 1/8 ounce jig heads with 4/0 super strong hooks to match the application here. So when you're picking out jig heads, you know, think about the water depth. Anything less than 10 feet, I mean, an 1/8 ounce should be fine, right? Again, 3/0 seems to match the size baits. We'll talk about those in a second. But the 1/8, 3/16, and a 1/4, right? Here's a 1/4 Bass Union head. But you got to be real mindful of the size of your hook, the gauge of your hook. The tungsten is, of course, yes, it has a better return. It shows up better. It's just not totally necessary, I'm finding. Like, if I can't find my bait out in space, it's not because of whether it's tungsten or lead. It's because I'm not pointing at it, or my settings weren't right on my pan optics. So you've got other problems, not necessarily like the density of the metal you're using on your jig head. That's just me. But again, if you had to pick one and kind of the all-around go-to, I fished that 3/16 all the way down into like 20 plus feet. Takes a while to sink out, but it gives you time to find your bait, get your boat in good position, get momentum, you know, so you got a good drift so you can fish your cast out. I turn my trolling motor on really low, like 2 or 3, and, you know, point right at where I'm heading, and try to give myself a little bit of momentum so I don't have the wind or the current push me around. When it comes to baits, I think you know, it's kind of, you want a smooth bait and you want a ribbed bait. The Hog Farmer Spunk Shad, of course, is like the go-to in the pintail, you know, ribbed bait department. You just can't beat these baits. The 5.5 inch, it pairs up really nice with the 3-inch. the 3/0 hooks that are on these heads that we're just talking about. This is a John Pearl thing, right? He's the one who turned me on to the Z-Man baits. The 5 and there's a 4 and a 5, right? You can you know, fish these things. They've got I like the scent, the Procure gel that these things come with. They seem to be stinky for a long time, and that certainly doesn't seem to hurt on Clear Lake. But these things just last a long time. Something about that plastic makes them real jiggly even in the coldest of water. They last a whole long time, and they smell good. So I pretty much keep it simple. I got a Z-Man smooth bait, a Hog Farmer ribbed bait. You know, in this case, I got a 3/8 and a 1/4 ounce head I'm messing with, right? So depending on the depth. But these again are my kind of go-to setups. I got my NASCI, Shimano's. These are the 2500s. I'm going to talk to you about some of the rods, right? I've just got some, you know, these are just not even high-end stuff. Tatula, one's a 7-footer, one's a 7.3. And the Maxim, which is like a 7.2. These are like medium action. Nothing super sophisticated about it. You just want to have multiple setups so you can get comfortable with, and you know, you're going to be dealing with line twist. So having some redundancy in your gear, so you can you know, give some setups a rest, troll your line out, get it smoothed out. But you can just tell how light that braid is. I've been really fishing that real hard. That one's second most, and this one's the third most used of the setups. You can just tell by how much color is left in the braid. But anyway, this is some of the gear and some of the, you know, getting started on Clear Lake. You know, there's big fish here, so you don't. I mean, you could be fishing much bigger than I am. I think we're going to see a lot of innovation with more like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, imagine if there was like a 10-inch version of these Spunk Shads, right? Here's a 4-inch version. You know, 4-inch, 5-inch. You know, depending how many guys you're fishing in your boat, you might have maybe some slight differences, but give yourself some options in what size jig head, what size hook. Be mindful of how deep you're fishing. Anything less than 10 feet, I mean, an 1/8 ounce or even less is probably best to give you time to find your bait. You don't want it sinking like a, you know, just a complete stone right to the bottom. Having some rate of fall, giving yourself time to make adjustments and boat positioning as your bait's falling where you want it. But this is kind of my go-to rig. I keep it in a big day pack on board. It's been kind of my one tackle box lately that I just keep going to over and over and over again. But anyway, that's a good way to get started on hover rigging on Clear Lake.